Well, welcome in, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Cal's Corner. I can't believe it's already episode 8, and just want to thank our viewers here for the previous 7. And today, Billy, we have someone special with us today. We have Chris Stark from Montague, and we are looking so forward to hearing your story and your journey and what you've been up to. But before we get started with Chris, we have to pay a couple bills. We want to thank Billy here from KLLB Media right here in Whitehall. Billy helps us with this production and many other productions here in the West Michigan area. And also Bill Welch here from Bill's Golden Cards and Collectibles. Kind of a cool store. Have you ever been in here before until today?
No, that's cool.
Yeah, he has a lot of baseballs up, especially Tiger baseballs up for sale. I learned today one of the guys in here was won the World Series on the 84 team. Cool. So I did not realize that guy was on there. So he's got a lot of stuff. Actually has a yard sale going on right now. So yeah, so we want to thank those two guys. So we are going to jump right into this. So welcome once again, Chris Stark. Welcome to the Cal's Corner.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's start right out. Tell me the early years. Tell me like your parents, the early years of Chris Stark.
Early years, well, I was born and raised in Montague. Never really left. Moved to Whitehall for a couple years while I was in college. But yeah, my parents are both Montague grads, and I have a younger sister and a younger brother that went to Montague as well.
What's your maiden name?
Walker Nagel.
Sorry. Being named Sean Russell Alliance, our years of broadcast.
Right.
Walker Nagel?
Walker Nagel. WACKERNAGEL. Walker Nagel. Wacker Nagel. We say Walker Nagel.
That's kind of like, when we look at it and go, that something like Schmedikinek.
Oh, yeah.
You look at it and go, oh, boy.
Yeah.
How do you say this?
Right.
We always say there's not enough Smiths and Browns or
right.
in the world. Yeah.
Yes. That's
wild. So, and your parents are still alive?
They are, yeah. Yeah.
That's where are your siblings at?
Montague. We all live within about 2 miles of each other.
That is so cool. That's awesome. So, high school. Tell us about your high school. What do you compete in sports or?
I played basketball and softball.
Did you? You enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it. Yep.
Who were your coaches?
I had Jim Tate and Ray Schloff as my basketball coaches. Nice. Some of the greatest mentors around.
Yeah.
And Doug Hanna, also an amazing mentor, was my softball coach, along with Jim Michelson. Yeah.
Long-time names over here.
Yeah.
Jim Tate.
Wow.
Yep. Where did you go to college at?
I went to MCC. Yep. Okay. I played softball there for a year. It was just really hard to juggle classes and the travel and the, two games a week.
Yeah.
So I only played a year, but had a lot of fun, made a lot of great friends.
Okay. What position?
Played third base.
So the hot corners, they call it.
Yes.
You had a good arm then.
Yeah. Yep.
Wild. All right. So how do you meet your husband, Jeff?
We met, we obviously knew who each other were through high school, being that many a while are small communities, but met through mutual friends.
Okay. Love at first sight or not?
No. He asked me out quite a few times, and I denied him. And you probably didn't know Jeff when he was in high school.
No.
He was a good athlete, really cocky, just kind of stuck up. I didn't really care for him. Then he went on a date with another girl, and I thought, I was a little jealous. So I think that's when I realized I might actually like him.
Well, Jeff and I have something in common because I got shot down numerous times by my wife, too. So, yeah. Well, tell me about your kids.
Yeah, so I have a 23-year-old son, Bryce Stark. He graduated from Hope College last December. Played football there for 3 years, but his sophomore year was COVID, so there was no football that year. And he is married and owns a house in Montague. And then Brooke, my daughter, just turned 21, and she is a junior at Grand Valley.
Awesome. So if I had $1 for every time I've said the last name of Stark through the years there and years of broadcasting,
right,
I could probably fund a fishing trip somewhere between the two. Especially Bryce, because he's such a great athlete in football and carried the ball a lot.
He was fun to watch.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you had that interesting is not the right word. your life took a big change here about, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Almost
why don't we talk about that?
So, actually, it all started shortly after my 30th birthday.
Okay.
I had found a lump in my breast and found out that it was stage 2 breast cancer. It had not moved beyond the breast, wasn't in any lymph nodes. So they considered that early stage. I went through chemotherapy and had a double mastectomy, went to the University of Michigan. So I spent a lot of that year on the road seeking medical treatment. My kids Bryce was in 1st grade and Brooke was in preschool at the time.
Okay.
And we did all the things the doctors told us to do. And I was cancer-free and followed closely for the next 5 years. Yeah. And 9 years later, when I was 39, it came back. So it came back in one of my lungs at that time, down my chest wall and wrapped around my heart.
Okay.
So, so stage 4 at that time, considered terminal. Yep. I was given 2 to 5 years to live. And I will be 47 on Friday.
And how old were you when you got the second diagnosis?
39. 39. Yep. Bryce was a sophomore in high school and Brooke was in 8th grade.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you handle that, for lack of better words? I mean, I got diagnosed going on 4 years ago with prostate cancer, but was caught it early, so a little bit different. I've always said I've had the easiest cancer journey of anybody that's probably ever lived. I mean, because we caught mine so early. How do you handle that? I mean,
there's a lot of emotions that go with it.
Yeah.
It's definitely very scary. I learned very early on, and I contribute a lot of this to Craig Smith, that I just have to surrender it all over to the Lord.
Yeah.
He's got control. We don't always know why things happen, but I'm not going to spend my days worrying about it. I'm just going to live my best life and know that he's got this, and whatever his purpose is, we'll figure it out.
Gotcha. So talk to us about, was U of M, is that still your go-to place?
Not right now. No, it's not. When I was re-diagnosed at 39, I did go back there. I had my biopsies done there, had an oncologist there. But the treatment that my team in Muskegon and my U of M team thought was best for me at the time, I could easily get Muskegon.
Okay.
I've had consultations with U of M throughout the years when things have grown. But for the last 4 years, I've been in a clinical trial. And we're so blessed to have a great clinical trial institute in Grand Rapids called Start Midwest.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've been going. And I have an excellent team there. Clinical trials are a huge commitment because there's a lot of appointments, a lot of follow-up, because they don't know the side effects of your drug initially. Yeah. So you're followed with EKGs and all sorts of special testing a lot. So it's much more convenient to be able to do that in Grand Rapids than travel over to Ann Arbor.
Yep. Do you go to Lemon Holton then, or is it somewhere
No,
different?
It's somewhere different. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's it's part of cancer and hematology, and it's in a building off of Foremost Drive out by the airport. So don't even have to drive downtown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm assuming that some of your trials have worked better than others?
Yep. So I'm on my 4th clinical trial right now. Each one of them has worked for about a year.
Okay.
Which has been great.
Yeah.
The side effects are minimal. I feel really very good.
Yeah.
Typically when you have stage 4 cancer and you have growth, your treatment starts to work less and less. So my first line treatment worked for 4.5 years, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Then I had growth, moved into both of my lungs, and my next treatment worked for 3 months, which was devastating because typically the track record after that, it works less and less and you run out of treatments. And my Muskegon oncologist really pushed for me to seek a clinical trial. in the beginning, I was very against it. In my mind, back when I was diagnosed at 30, a clinical trial was your last resort. That's how I had always been taught or told it was. But in today's world, clinical trials are some of the best treatment options out there. They're just not approved by the FDA yet. Mm-hmm. So, I've been, one of them was an IV chemotherapy that worked great. And like I said, I've gotten about a year out of each one. So the one I'm currently on, it'll be a year in September.
So do they have more clinical trials lined up for you then? Or more things to try?
So typically what's happened is that there's a whole bunch of different criteria.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be able to have a biopsy. Well, because of where my cancer is in my lung and wrapped around my heart, it's very hard to biopsy. So there's a bunch of clinical trials out there. It's just whether or not you're a candidate or if they're taking new people. I've been denied applications on some trials for different reasons, but always been blessed enough to get into one that's had good success. So the one I'm currently on is made by Pfizer. The first drug I was on for 4.5 years was a Pfizer drug.
Okay.
And Pfizer thinks that this is their next best thing to that drug. So I'm hoping that I see this out of a clinical trial and approved by the FDA and
gotcha.
And what they call a long hauler. That's what they call cancer patients that are on a drug for a long time. Mm-hmm. Long haulers.
Yeah. So my oncologist, Brian Lane, he has stage 4 cancer also.
Yes.
And so he's a U of M grad. So of course he goes to U of M and gets the, and he was 17 years to become an oncologist. 17 to 35, I think. He was not completely done until 35 years old. And so him and I have had long talks. So when I found out I had prostate cancer, he's in my Tuesday night group.
Okay.
So how cool is that?
You're right. Yeah.
It's like all just God-driven right there. And so we talk about, his journey and the trials and everything that's coming up. So kind of a little bit, I kind of hear it from Brian then also. So, on the way here, I had so many questions in my head, and I should have written them down, but I was driving, practicing safe driving. Yeah. So what would you tell so you did a self-examination, and that's how you kind of found it.
Yeah.
So you're pro that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Really? And I guess one thing that I would always tell people is listen to your body.
Okay.
So I've found out that my cancer had come back because I had a urinary tract infection that wouldn't go away.
Okay.
I was treated with a couple different antibiotics. It wouldn't go away. Finally sent to a urologist who ordered a CAT scan. When they did the CAT scan of the kidneys, it picked up the nodules in my lung. I had 0 symptoms. I was actively running, exercising, no problem. I would have never, if it hadn't been for that kidney stone, I would have never known that I had cancer in my lungs. So
really,
you just have to, and I truly feel that was an act of God too. Yeah.
Who have been some of the key players in your life in this journey so far, helping you get through this?
Definitely my church family. Yeah. They've been amazing. I lean on our elders often when I need prayer, and they're amazing. Craig Smith, he's always got great things. I know his family prays for me often. Yeah. When I was 30 and the kids were little, Susan Collins was the meal train coordinator.
Okay, yeah.
She made sure that our family was well taken care of. My kids spent most of that year with the Bushberger family.
Okay, great. Another great family.
Another great family. Yep. I joked when I spoke at the women's ministry, because Chris was there, that Bryce became a Packers fan for a short time of his life because he spent so much time with the Bushbergers. So yeah, those are definitely. And then, ironically, Angela Baker, she's a Whitehall gal, and she's one of my best friends, and she had breast cancer at 29, just 6-9 months before I did.
Okay.
And there was another gal from Whitehall, Laura Plufka McGregor. You might have heard of her. She started the Hope Scarves organization.
Okay.
very well known in the cancer community, and she's passed away. But those two women and I we all had cancer at the same time at such a young age. And so we shared a bond people don't want to share. But over the years, we're definitely people that I leaned on when I had questions, or they could relate.
Oh, absolutely. Because otherwise you can't. Until you've gone down that path. I have a friend, I just seen him Saturday at a car show, who unexpectedly lost his son. Just got a rare, fast growing bug, and he passed away like in 48 hours. And I bumped into him, and I just said, "How you doing?" And he goes, "Not well, not good." And I says, "I can't relate.
No,
I can't relate.
No,
I don't know what to tell
until you live it.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah, yeah."
And for me, I'm the youngest of. I have 3 other brothers, and we've all been singles. All lived to be old. I mean, idiots in their 90s. I had a brother who got killed at 48, but that was in Iraq. And we were sitting around when we were farming. We had our plant. We had our little conference room, and we were sitting in there. And my oldest brother says, "Hey, it was just a tough year. Markets were down." He said, "Hey, we're all healthy. Our kids are healthy. We're all healthy." And I went, "No, wait a minute. Guess what?" Yeah. So when you're not, and I never thought I would ever get the diagnosis because it just didn't run in our family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it had to be a shock also to you then when you found out.
So yeah, it's interesting. My maternal grandmother died of breast cancer when my mom was 7. But back then they didn't, they removed the breasts and they didn't do anything else. And so we assumed when I got it at such a young age that it was probably genetic. My mom hadn't had breast cancer, but being that my grandmother had. So while I was at U of M, I did genetic testing. And at the time, the BRCA1 and 2 genes were the big breast cancer genes that were out. And I was negative for both of those. And about 5 years later, my oncologist called because they had a huge breakthrough in genetics. That's the great thing about going to a research place like that is like my oncologist at U of M specialized in breast cancer in women under 40. So, and she was a research doctor. So they had a big breakthrough. She got me a grant. So we didn't have to pay for the genetic testing. Tested me for like 26 different genes. I was negative for all of those. So when it came back and as metastatic at 39, there was more genes that were discovered. So I went through another panel of genetic testing. Again, the genetic group that did it paid for it because I was an interesting patient for them. And at that time, I tested positive for a gene they call PALB2, which is a breast cancer gene that just wasn't discovered the first time that I had it. So then my mom did go get tested and she carries the gene, but has never had breast cancer. In her 60s and never had breast cancer.
Okay.
So obviously her mother must have carried the gene. My daughter has been tested and is negative. So she does not carry the gene. Bryce has not been tested. He may at some point because men can get breast cancer too. Yeah, we're blessed that Brooke does not carry it.
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't want to go there, but that's a question that maybe, someone would, somebody would, someone would be interested in.
Yeah.
So it has been, like you said, there's 3 generations that, but now Brooke does not have it.
She does not have it. Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Now, one of my questions was, as we were talking about that, will it skip a generation?
I don't know that. Brooke might. I didn't go with her. She went through genetic counseling.
Yeah.
And I want to say that it doesn't skip a generation. I don't think her children need to worry about it since she doesn't carry it. But I should find that answer out.
Yeah, because sometimes you hear of certain cancers will skip.
Yeah.
So that's what popped into my mind. So what's I know you have a cruise coming up here and this fall and in your future. So and I know your motto is get busy living.
It sure is. Yeah.
How'd that come about?
Laura, my friend that has passed away from breast cancer, she sent me a shirt in the mail one day that said get busy living. And I just kind of ran with it after that day and thought this is it. Like none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Amen.
And So Jeff and I just decided that we were going to make our bucket list a priority. And, certainly we want to save for the future in retirement, but we're not going to live only to retire. We're going to live and hopefully get to see retirement too. So we love to travel. We love to check new places out. You'll often see #GetBusyLiving.
Yeah,
kind of my thing.
I do. Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I didn't have to write it down because I knew in the back of my mind I was going to ask you. Where are some of the places? Talk to me about your bucket list.
Yeah.
What have you done?
New York was on my bucket list.
Okay.
So Susan and Counts and I did that together, and quick 3-night, 4-day trip, and we covered all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We went to the Today Show, Good Morning America, all the 9/11 stuff, ate some amazing food, went to Central Park. It was a great trip. Allie's Wish, which is like Make-A-Wish, but for adults. We won a Allie's Wish trip, and so we got to take our kids to Hawaii. And we went to Pearl Harbor and did the Hawaii things, which was awesome. Alaska was one that I didn't know that we'd ever really get to. It's one of those that's you can only go to during certain times of the year, and summers are always busy, and graduations and weddings. And Jeff and I just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. So Alaska is our celebration.
That's awesome.
So we leave Friday.
Yeah. And you're doing a cruise.
We are.
In the past, we talked about that.
Yep. Going with a set of our friends, Amy and Blair Moreau.
Okay.
They also celebrated their 25th. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What else is on the bucket list?
We recently added Iceland. That's really intriguing to us. So
why? Okay. Why Iceland?
It just seems like a really cool place to check out. Yeah. And I always thought it was really expensive, but looking into it, it's pretty reasonable. And it's a place that Jeff and I would enjoy checking out.
Yeah. Can you fish there?
Sure you can.
Probably. Yeah. That's my,
right.
My wife's Italian, so she's been to Italy once, so she wants to go back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had no desire. No desire. I said, go with your sister.
Right.
Your sister, you two go, and then I'll go, the Yukon or somewhere, go fishing. Yeah. So what's next? I mean, I know you have the cruise.
Yeah,
but
the cruise.
Looking 2, 3, 5 years down the road, what's next?
I don't know what's next.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeff's on an 8-year plan to retire, so not retirement.
Okay.
Not in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't really know. We're building Jeff is building a cabin in the UP.
Nice.
That's one of his bucket list things.
Yeah.
Just a deer camp.
Oh, deer camp.
Mm-hmm.
Deer camps are fun.
Deer camp. Yep.
Yep. We're at the UP.
It is in the Ralph area. Okay. I don't know. Don't know.
Go across the bridge and go left.
I've been to the property once, so.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So question, I mentioned this to you earlier. You're 18 years old. You're graduating Montague.
Mm-hmm.
You had to do it all over again. And if you had no boyfriend, you had to do it all over again. Is there something out there that you wish, you would have tried to do in life?
So when you put it that way, take out the career change, I wish I would have just gone and studied abroad, or just gone and lived in Montana in the mountains, or just gotten out of here. I love Montague. Yeah. I loved raising my kids here, but I wish I would have lived somewhere else for a period of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. And as it's probably going back to Montague in the Whitehall area, so close, but separated by the river. Mm-hmm. And on Friday nights, you're rivals, but the rest of the time it's, you're just one big community. Mm-hmm. Talk about how that's helped you in this journey. I know you've talked about the individual people.
Yeah.
Talk about your church a little bit. I'd talk about this community, how they've surrounded you.
Oh, our church did a huge music worship fundraiser for us when I was first diagnosed stage 4. And it was it was at the auditorium at the Montague High School, and the place was packed. There were easily over 800 people there. And the Holy Spirit was there. Yeah. It was the most amazing thing. But even think back to when I was first diagnosed, Angela Baker, one of my friends that I talked about that had breast cancer with me, and some of my friends and her sister, we did one of the Susan Komen 3-day walks.
Yeah.
And the community came together, like the Little Vikes football did a spaghetti dinner fundraiser for us and raised money for our walk. And this community is great when it rallies when things happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm thinking it's kind of out there. I know I would love to live here.
Yes.
But I love water.
Yes.
I love to fish. So, we looked at a house last week again. And this is a great community.
It is.
Yeah.
Like my first time around, I think, Sarah Blankstrom was coaching volleyball at Montague. So this was a while ago. And they did a pink out game and raised money that we donated to a breast cancer charity. And then when Amy Myers was coaching basketball at Montague, and shortly after I was first diagnosed, she did a pink out game and sold t-shirts, and that money went to our family personally for medical bills. And I'm sure I'm forgetting lots of people that have helped because it's this is a great community. It is.
I've spent a lot of time over here since early when John and I moved radio stations, or we came over here in the early 2000s and got more involved with the West Michigan Conference and out of the NCAA conference back then.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a cool area. And there's great athletes, great people.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was one question. Is there something that you want to talk about I didn't ask you about? Is there a question? Sometimes I'll say, is there a question I haven't asked you that you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Most people say no.
Yeah.
But I just want to get that. Just want to get that out there. Okay. Let me take a quick look.
Absolutely.
I'll go back to your bucket list.
Yeah.
So you said you wanted to go to Iceland.
Yeah.
Anything in Europe?
We talk about it as we get older, and we have more time to do that. We're not working around sports sports schedules anymore. I do think that we'll probably end up in Europe. I've done things like it was on my bucket list to jump out of an airplane. So I went skydiving about 8 years ago. It was really cool.
So you jumped out of a good running airplane.
You did.
Were you strapped to somebody?
Yes. Yeah, it was tandem. Yep. Yeah. It was wild. It was awesome.
Wow. My brother, I wanted to get into that when I was much younger. My brother said, and that was when I just remembered it so well. He goes, he looked at me and he goes, only a fool jumps out of a good running airplane. And that was his don't do it. You've already been dinged up enough. And I thought, I've never forgot that. Jumping out of a good running airplane. Yeah. And now it's way more popular now than what it was 40 years ago.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't have that 40 years ago. So I was in my early 20s and already had my knee rebuilt once. And so I was like, I think I want to go do this. He was like, no. You missed 6 months of work the first time.
Right.
I've always remembered that one. Yeah. So how was skydiving?
It was cool.
Was it?
It's I don't remember how far up we were when we jumped, but you could see the curvature of the earth. Like it was.
Oh, you were up there.
Unreal. Yeah. It was cold on a hot summer day. It was really cold up there, and it was cool. Really cool.
Just do one jump?
I just did one jump. People ask all the time if I do it again, and I probably would, but I kind of feel like it went well and nobody got hurt. Yeah. I don't know if I need to do it again.
Check.
Right. Yeah. I did it.
These are all fine. Ankles are fine. Yeah. Wild. So, well, you know what? Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. This has been fun. It's a little, I've known who you are for a long time. Remember, just from your son, that's his mom or that's his dad. And but now I've gotten to know you a little bit more. So just appreciate you coming in, appreciate your honesty, appreciate you that you're willing to put yourself out there and talk about this because hopefully it does help other women going forward. And I know that you've been you've been very adamant about getting out and speaking. I know you spoke at the White Lake Women's Ministry. There's like 80 women I heard that came to hear your message. So that was awesome. So thank you. I've always been a proponent since I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I told the Grantman's Ministry guys, they're all just like, no way. And I said, you guys got to start getting checked.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so 8 of them have privately told me that they've been checked. 6 are fine. 2 of them are being watched.
Yeah.
And none of the 2 that are being watched had no idea. I didn't have any idea.
Right.
Zero. None.
Right.
So, yeah. But thank you for coming and thank you for being just a proponent of, helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so that's going to put a wrap on episode 8 of Cal's Corner. Once again, thank you, KLLB Media, Billy Mann, Smile Billy. No, they can't see you. And Bill Welch right here, Bill's Golden Cards and Collectibles. And thank you again for tuning in. Thanks, Chris Stark. You're awesome.
Thank you.
I admire you greatly.
Ah,
and yeah, well, until we see you soon, thank you. Bye-bye.